A teacher in a small Alabama town adopted 3 black children. She loved them like her own. She gave them a home. She gave them a future. She gave them everything she had. And then the school board showed up at her door. They said she was unfit. They said the children needed a different home. They said they would take them away unless she resigned. She refused. What happened next made national headlines and divided an entire community. But that's not the part that will make you angry. The part that will make you angry is what happened when she found out who was behind it all. The person who started the investigation wasn't a parent. Wasn't a board member. Wasn't even someone who knew her children. It was her own mother. Her mother had called the school board. Her mother had told them Rebecca was unstable. Her mother had told them the children were in danger. Her mother had been trying to destroy her daughter's life for 18 years. And now she was about to succeed. This is the story of Rebecca Thompson. A teacher. A mother. A woman who fought the school board, her own family, and a system designed to break her. And this is what happened when she finally found out the truth. Rebecca Thompson was 38 years old. She was a teacher at Jefferson Elementary School in a small town called Millbrook, Alabama. Millbrook had a population of about 15,000 people. It was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone. The kind of town where your business was everyone's business. The kind of town where secrets didn't stay secret for long. Rebecca had been teaching for 14 years. She had started at Jefferson right out of college. She had taught 3rd grade, then 4th, then 5th. She had taught hundreds of children. She had watched them grow up. She had attended their graduations. She had gone to their weddings. She was beloved by her students. She was respected by her peers. She was the kind of teacher who stayed late to help struggling kids. The kind who bought supplies with her own money. The kind who never turned a child away. She had never been in trouble. She had never had a complaint. She had never given anyone any reason to question her character. But there was one thing about Rebecca that people in Millbrook didn't quite know how to handle. She was single. She had never been married. She had no children of her own. And she had just adopted 3 black siblings from foster care. Marcus was 9 years old. Simone was 7. Elijah was 5. They had been in the system for 3 years. They had been moved from home to home. They had been separated, then reunited, then separated again. They had been neglected. They had been abused. They had been forgotten. And then Rebecca found them. She found Marcus in a group home. He had been there for 18 months. He had stopped talking. He had stopped eating. He had stopped hoping. He had been labeled difficult and uncooperative and too much to handle. She found Simone in a foster home where she was being treated like a servant. She was 7 years old and she was doing laundry, cooking meals, and taking care of 2 younger foster children. She had been there for 2 years. She had been told she was lucky to have a roof over her head. She found Elijah in a hospital. He had been admitted with severe malnutrition. His ribs were visible. His cheeks were hollow. His eyes were empty. He was 5 years old and he weighed less than a toddler. Rebecca saw these 3 children and she couldn't walk away. She didn't do it for attention. She didn't do it for praise. She didn't do it because she wanted to be a hero. She did it because she couldn't bear to see them suffer. She did it because no one else would. The adoption took 18 months. 18 months of home visits, background checks, interviews, and paperwork. The state inspected her home. They interviewed her neighbors. They called her references. They reviewed her finances. They asked her why she wanted to adopt. They asked her why she wanted to adopt black children. They asked her why she wanted to adopt children with trauma. They asked her if she was sure. They asked her if she was ready. They asked her if she understood what she was getting into. Rebecca answered every question. She passed every test. She jumped through every hoop. And finally, after 18 months, the judge signed the papers. Marcus, Simone, and Elijah became her children. They moved into her home. They started calling her mom. They started healing. Marcus stopped having nightmares. He started talking again. He started eating again. He started smiling again. Simone stopped hitting. She stopped being angry all the time. She started playing. She started laughing. She started being a child again. Elijah started speaking. He had been nonverbal for almost a year. He started speaking. He started eating. He started gaining weight. He started looking like a healthy child for the first time in his life. They were becoming a family. And then the school board got involved. It started with a phone call. Rebecca was in her classroom when she got the call. It was from the superintendent's office. They asked her to come in for a meeting. They said it was urgent. They said she needed to come immediately. She left her classroom and walked to the district office. She didn't know what it was about. She didn't know why they had called. She assumed it was about a student. She assumed it was about a curriculum issue. She assumed it was about something normal. She walked into the conference room and found 7 people sitting around a long table. The school board. All of them. They didn't ask her to sit down. They didn't offer her a chair. They just started talking. They told her they had received a complaint about her. They told her there were concerns about her fitness to be a teacher. They told her there were concerns about her judgment. They told her there were concerns about her lifestyle choices. Rebecca asked what they were talking about. They said she had adopted 3 black children. They said she was unfit to continue in her position. They said her personal choices were disruptive to the school environment. They said the children would be better off in a culturally appropriate home. Rebecca couldn't believe what she was hearing. She asked them if they were being serious. They told her she had failed to maintain professional boundaries. They told her she had compromised her ability to teach. They told her she was a distraction. They told her she was dividing the community. Rebecca asked them if they had ever met her children. They said they didn't need to. Rebecca asked them if they had ever seen her interact with her students. They said they had reviewed her file. Rebecca asked them if they knew who she was. They said they knew all they needed to know. Then they gave her an ultimatum. She had 30 days to resign. Or they would terminate her with cause. Rebecca didn't cry. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She just stood up, looked at the 7 people sitting around the table, and said, "If you take my children from me, I will fight you. And I will win." Then she walked out of the room. Rebecca drove home that night in a daze. She didn't understand what was happening. She didn't understand why the school board was doing this. She didn't understand who could have complained. She replayed every conversation she had ever had with other parents. She tried to remember if anyone had ever expressed concern about her adoption. She tried to remember if anyone had ever said anything that could be interpreted as a complaint. She couldn't think of anything. She called her lawyer. She explained the situation. Her lawyer told her to gather evidence. Her lawyer told her to document everything. Her lawyer told her to prepare for a fight. The next day, Rebecca filed a public records request. She asked for copies of every complaint, every email, every document related to her case. She found out who had started the investigation. It was her own mother. Rebecca's mother was a woman named Patricia Thompson. She was 62 years old. She lived in a town 2 hours away. She had never met her grandchildren. She had never even called them. Patricia had never approved of Rebecca's life. She had never approved of her career. She had never approved of her choices. She had never approved of anything. When Rebecca was 18, Patricia kicked her out of the house. She told her she was a disappointment. She told her she was a failure. She told her she would never amount to anything. Rebecca had spent the next 20 years trying to prove her mother wrong. She had graduated from college. She had become a teacher. She had built a life for herself. She had become a homeowner. She had become a respected member of her community. And she had cut her mother out of her life. She had gone 12 years without speaking to her. 12 years without a phone call. 12 years without a visit. 12 years without anything. But that didn't stop Patricia from calling the school board. Patricia had seen the local newspaper article about Rebecca's adoption. She had seen the photos of Rebecca with Marcus, Simone, and Elijah. She had seen the story about how Rebecca had given 3 children a home. And she had been furious. She called the school board and told them Rebecca was unstable. She told them Rebecca had a history of mental illness. She told them Rebecca was lying about her past. She told them Rebecca had been committed to a psychiatric hospital. She told them Rebecca was dangerous. None of it was true. But the school board didn't verify it. They didn't check her records. They didn't call her references. They didn't ask for proof. They just started an investigation. They just started building a case against her. And all of it was based on lies. Rebecca got a copy of the investigation file. She read every page. She read every note. She read every complaint. She read every piece of evidence. What she found made her sick. The school board had been building a file on her for months. They had been documenting everything. They had taken photos of her at the grocery store. They had interviewed her neighbors. They had talked to other parents. They had documented every concern. They had made a list of complaints from parents. The complaints were things like: she brought her children to school events. She mentioned her children in class. She talked about adoption during Black History Month. She wore an African dress to the school's cultural fair. She braided her daughter's hair before school. She helped a Black student with his reading. Every single complaint was about race. Every single complaint was about her children. Every single complaint was about her being too involved. The school board had also documented her failure to maintain professional boundaries. The evidence was a photo of her hugging a student. The student was crying. The student's mother had just been diagnosed with cancer. Rebecca was comforting him. The school board said she was acting inappropriately. They said she was overstepping her role. They said she was playing mother instead of teacher. Then she found the transcript of a private conversation between 2 school board members. They were talking about how to get rid of her. One of them said, "We need to be careful. This could get ugly." The other one said, "I don't care. She needs to go." The first one said, "What about the children? They're innocent." The second one said, "She should have thought about that before she adopted them." Rebecca read that line over and over. She should have thought about that before she adopted them. She realized then that the school board wasn't trying to protect anyone. They weren't trying to protect the children. They weren't trying to protect the students. They were trying to punish her. And then she found something else. Her mother had also been in contact with one of the school board members privately. They had been talking for months. They had been sharing information. They had been coordinating their efforts. The school board member was named Arthur Jenkins. He was the vice president of the board. He was 65 years old. He was a retired judge. He was the most powerful person in Millbrook. He had been working with her mother. They had a plan. And the plan was to destroy her. Rebecca decided to fight back. She called a press conference. She invited every local media outlet. She stood in front of a microphone and told her story. She talked about her children. She talked about their suffering. She talked about how they had been abandoned, neglected, and forgotten. She talked about how she had given them a home. She talked about how she had given them a future. She talked about how she was fighting to keep them. And then she talked about her mother. She told the room that her mother was the one who had started the investigation. She told them her mother had lied about her. She told them her mother had been manipulating the school board. She told them her mother was the enemy. The room was silent. The cameras kept rolling. The story went viral overnight. The school board called an emergency meeting. The room was packed with angry parents, passionate activists, and curious journalists. They were all expecting a fight. They were all expecting an apology. They were all expecting the school board to back down. Instead, the school board doubled down. Arthur Jenkins stood at the podium and told everyone that Rebecca was dividing the community. He said she was putting the children at risk. He said she was creating a hostile environment. He said the board was only trying to protect the students. He said Rebecca was the problem. He said she needed to go. And then he said something that made the room erupt. He said, "This is not about race. This is about protecting our community from someone who does not belong." The room exploded. People were screaming. People were crying. People were shouting at Arthur Jenkins. And then one man stepped forward. The man was Marcus's former foster father. His name was Pastor David Williams. He was black. He was a local pastor. He had known Marcus, Simone, and Elijah for years. He had seen them suffer. He had seen them struggle. He had seen them be passed from home to home. He had seen them be treated like burdens. And he had seen Rebecca give them a home. He walked up to the podium. He stood in front of the school board. He looked at Arthur Jenkins. He looked at the other members. He looked at the angry crowd. And then he spoke. He said, "I have watched those children sleep in 3 different houses. I have watched them go without food. I have watched them cry themselves to sleep. I have watched them be told they were worthless. I have watched them be told they were too much. I have watched them be told they were unlovable." He paused. "And I have never seen them happier than they are now." He turned to Arthur Jenkins. "You are not protecting anyone. You are destroying a family. And you are doing it because you cannot stand the idea of a white woman raising black children. You cannot stand the idea of someone breaking down the walls you have built. You cannot stand the idea of love crossing your boundaries." The room was silent. Pastor David walked away from the podium and sat down. The room erupted in applause. Arthur Jenkins was white as a sheet. And then the reporter from CNN stood up and asked the question that would break the story wide open. The CNN reporter asked a question that no one had asked before. "Rebecca, did your mother ever tell you why she did this?" Rebecca had never asked. She had never wanted to know. She had been so focused on protecting her children that she had never stopped to understand her mother. But the question was a good one. Rebecca called her mother. She had not spoken to her in 12 years. She didn't know if she would answer. The phone rang. It didn't stop ringing. Rebecca left a message. She asked her mother why. She asked her mother why she had tried to destroy her life. She asked her mother why she had lied to the school board. She asked her mother why she had tried to take her children away. The next day, her mother called back. She was crying. She told Rebecca the truth. She had been diagnosed with cancer. She had 6 months to live. She was dying. She had called the school board because she wanted to see her daughter before she died. She wanted to see Rebecca. She wanted to ask for forgiveness. She had done what she did because she was scared. She didn't know how to reach her daughter. She didn't know how to fix what she had broken. She had thought that if she created a problem, Rebecca would come to her. She had been wrong. She had been so wrong. She had been so wrong that she had almost destroyed everything her daughter had built. Rebecca didn't know what to do. She was angry. She was furious. She was devastated. Her mother had tried to destroy her. Her mother had tried to take her children away. Her mother had almost succeeded. And now her mother was dying. Rebecca went to see her. She drove 2 hours to her mother's house. She walked up to the door. She knocked. Her mother opened the door. She was thin. Her skin was pale. Her eyes were hollow. She had 6 months to live. She looked like a ghost. Rebecca stood in the doorway and stared at her. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to walk away. She wanted to hug her. She didn't know what to do. And then her mother spoke. "Rebecca, I am so sorry." Rebecca stayed for 3 hours. She listened to her mother. She heard the whole story. Her mother had been diagnosed with cancer 6 months earlier. She had been given 6 months to live. She had been sitting alone in her house, thinking about all the things she had done wrong. She had been thinking about Rebecca. She had been thinking about the day she kicked her out. She had been thinking about the years of silence. She had been thinking about how she had destroyed her relationship with her only child. She had called the school board because she didn't know what else to do. She had thought that if she created a crisis, Rebecca would come to her. She didn't know it would spiral out of control. She didn't know Arthur Jenkins would use it to destroy Rebecca. She didn't know the school board would try to take the children. She was so sorry. Rebecca forgave her. She didn't forgive her because she deserved it. She didn't forgive her because she had earned it. She forgave her because she was dying. She forgave her because she was her mother. She forgave her because she was tired of carrying the weight of her anger. She held her mother's hand and told her that she loved her. Her mother cried. Rebecca cried. And then she drove home to her children. Marcus, Simone, and Elijah were waiting for her. They didn't know what had happened. They didn't know about the school board. They didn't know about their grandmother. They only knew that their mother had come back. Rebecca hugged them. She told them everything was going to be okay. And it was. The school board dropped the investigation. Arthur Jenkins resigned under pressure. Pastor David became the new chairman of the school board. Rebecca kept her job. She kept her children. And she started speaking out. She started telling her story. She started advocating for other teachers who were being targeted. She became a hero. Not because she wanted to be, but because she refused to give up. Marcus is now 14 years old. He's playing football. He's getting straight A's. He's talking about going to college. Simone is 12 years old. She's an artist. She draws pictures of her family. She writes letters to her mother telling her how much she loves her. Elijah is 10 years old. He's the happiest kid you'll ever meet. He's always smiling. He's always laughing. He's always hugging his mother. Rebecca is still teaching. She's still fighting. She's still advocating for children who don't have a voice. She has forgiven her mother. She is at peace. But she has not forgotten. She will never forget what happened. She will never forget what it felt like to be attacked by the people who were supposed to protect her. She will never forget what it felt like to be told she didn't belong. And she will spend the rest of her life making sure no one else ever feels that way. Have you ever been targeted because of who you loved? Have you ever been told you didn't belong? Have you ever had to fight for your family? Tell us your story in the comments. We read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, stories about the people who quietly save the world, stories about the people who fight back, stories about the people who refuse to give up, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. And we'll see you in the next one.